my zone, on the road to the Super Bowl. Every game on the schedule crucial, it take a toll. It don't matter if we at home or on the road. You try to tackle, I'll truck a sucker and take it soul. I'm staring at 4th and goal, gotta find an open hole. A linebacker just close a hole where I'm supposed to go. So now I'm thinking my centers are all pro, so I trust he can make a walk for wherever the ball go. Yeah, there's 5 seconds on the play clock. The crowd was loud, but they stopped. Now it's silent while they watch. They stand off in the red zone. All I see is red home. Watch me get this touchdown and this W and head home.
Welcome in, Cowboys Nation, to Game Day Live Week 9. Cowboys, Eagles, biggest matchup of the year so far. Skywalker still with my brother from another Jesse Holley. What's good, bro?
What's going on, man? Big game, man. Big game.
Fired up, man. Fired up for this one, probably more than any of them, because it's a rivalry. It's a division rivalry. Hasn't been too much talking in this one. I think they learned their lesson a little bit. But, hey, at the end of the day, all the talking in the world doesn't matter, because when they get out there on that field, that's when the talking gets put away to the side, and you got to go out there and back it up. And I can't remember. Were you on the team or were you covering the team when – I think you were covering the team when Dez Bryant and Malcolm Jenkins.
Yeah,
pre-game show. I mean, I wish I had the picture. It's on my Twitter. That right there that epitomizes what we feel right now in Cowboys-Eagles rivalry, doesn't it?
No, it absolutely does. And it's like that every single time. It is a deep-rooted dislike. I don't want to use the word hatred, but there is probably some that are some hatred in there.
Yes.
Between these two cities, between these two teams. And this one, it counts. Like it really counts. It counts like really twofold because it is within your division and within your conference. So this one you want to make sure that you get, because last thing we want to hear about from the media side is those lames up in Philadelphia talking their trash.
Facts. And I think we said this last week at the end of the post-game show, but I think they need this one for their psyche because they haven't beat. Let's just be real, y'all. I mean, look, I get it. They're 5-2. I love it. But they haven't beat a caliber opponent like this probably since they beat Philly, last year, in Dallas, regular season. I get the postseason, but regular season. So you don't want to go through the regular season losing against the marquee teams and then just beating all the other ones. The wins are wins. We love the wins. But you do want to know where you measure up once you get to that tournament. And if you are just losing to all these marquee teams, then who's going to have the confidence going in? So this is one of two, and I think the Cowboys need this big time for the standings and also for their psyche, Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely. And to steal a term that I heard our brother No C use earlier this week on the pod, this is the midterm.
Yeah.
Right? They failed their initial test against the Niners. This is the Cowboys midterm. They get an opportunity to show themselves as a formidable contender in the National Football League and within the NFC. So this is their midterm, and then you'll have a final at the end of the year before you head into the playoffs. Well, they already failed the first one. This has an opportunity to kind of get your grade, get your GPA back up, right? Get your NFL GPA back where you need it to be, because after the loss to the Niners, which seems like eons ago, this is the next big opponent, and they're the best in the league right now. Let's just be frank about it. Yeah. They're the best football team in the league right now, and if you want to, I know that you're a huge wrestling fan, and the great Ric Flair always says it. If you want to beat a man, you got to beat the man. And this is another opportunity for the Cowboys to show themselves as being the men. You got to go out there and take teams out like this, especially on the road. If you can do it, it even means a little bit more when you get a chance to go on the road and do it, because everything is against you, right? And this is not one of these towns where, we've all seen it, where you go to somewhere on the West Coast, you go to Washington, and the Cowboys have a contingency of fans that outrival the home fans.
Not happening.
This is not happening. This ain't happening in Philadelphia, right? This is a prideful bunch of fans, so they're going to be there. They're going to be loud. You already know they're double burdened folks as they're coming in off the bus. They're going to be at the game loud. They're going to be liquored up. They're going to be ready to go. And so to go out there on the road and win a matchup like this definitely means a little bit more when you can do it.
Another wrestling saying here: the cream rises to the top, right? Cream rises to the top, and this.
I don't know what wrestler said that, but I believe you.
Oh yeah, Macho Man.
Oh,
baby.
Macho Man! I know Macho Man. I'm old enough. I'm
Macho Man.
Macho Man.
Look, he pulled out the creamer. He was like,
yeah,
the cream.
yeah. Yeah.
Love it, man. Rest in
I
peace.
thought you was
to
gonna
Will
say
Grant.
like Roman Reigns or something. I don't know all the
Nah,
new
not the
wrestlers.
new ones. I know my audience. I know when
Yeah.
to go with the new guys. I know when to go with the old guys. I know you don't know nothing about Roman. You know, that's
Yeah,
a
I
big dog.
appreciate
You
that.
know?
Thank you.
But in order for the cream to rise to the top, you need to make sure you got the right ingredients for that. And the Cowboys are getting back a certain player as we look into the inactives here. So again, the inactives are starting to look like just the
The
rookies.
draft class.
Right? The draft class, they ain't playing. You got Deuce Vaughn, Jalen Brooks, Eric Scott, Junior Feoko, all out, and all those guys are day 3 picks, so it doesn't really come as a shocker when you look at how deep this team is coming into the season. Then Noah Igbenogany, the guy that they traded over from Miami, and then Trey Lance, who also is the emergency quarterback. Those are your 6 inactives. There aren't 7 because the Cowboys are getting back, or should I say getting back one offensive lineman, and another one will be participating. That is Chumwe Doga, who left the game last week, and Tyron Smith. He will be returning in this game, and honestly, Jesse, he needed to. This was the one he needed to return, in my opinion, due to what the Cowboys are going to be seeing up front, which I think is the best defensive line they would have seen since week 2 against the Jets, right?
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. So, getting him back, I think, is going to be big for a lot of different reasons. You brought up one point to me that I've been thinking about since the game ended in against the Rams. The Cowboys like to do a whole lot at the line of scrimmage. They like to recently they've been doing some different things from a game plan standpoint. But when you're on the road, I don't think Dak is going to be able to do a whole bunch of here we goes and check with me's and all these things. So you need the veteran guy like a Tyron Smith who's been with Tyler, who's been with Zach and Terrence and Dak for a decade, right? Been with these guys so that they have that chemistry, understanding, and cadence and wherewithal on the road in big games to not get the pre-snap penalties and know where a blitz is coming, know when the stunt's coming, because that's something that Chuma was struggling with, and be able to keep Dak upright, because that's going to be the key, in my opinion, is up front, and it starts with getting Tyron back here.
Yeah, absolutely. Having him back definitely helps your offensive line from a game plan perspective, from someone who's seen just about every player or type of move that a player can give. He's seen his Philadelphia front before. A lot of these players before. I know the rookie guys he has not seen yet, but trust me, Tyron Smith has had his fair share of battles against really good, dominant defensive front. My only concern about with the return of Tyron Smith is, when you talk about a neck and a stinger, the one thing that I do know about stingers is you lose a bit of power, right? So now if the neck stinger is going down into the shoulder, you're now talking about that punching arm, right? You're talking about now that ability to now when those rushers are coming and I got to sit firm, do I have the power to really punch and be able to maintain my punch throughout my blocking phase? And even turning, if the neck is bothering the stinger, am I able to get my neck and my head turned out there to actually get a guy to force him to run a hump? Or when those guys are looping back around, am I able to get my neck back in a situation where I can see it coming? So having Tyron out there definitely helps, because he understands the rivalry. He's been to Philadelphia a bunch of times. He knows exactly what to expect. He knows how to handle that level of hostility in that stadium. But on the flip side, I do want to come out and see, is the power there for him to be able to sustain those blocks? You're talking about some big time heavyweights that he's going to deal with today in this ball game. But I tell you, I feel much better with Tyron being on the football field than I do with him not being on the football field.
100%, man. And kind of go back to, like I said, about week 2. And the reason why I bring it up, because that was the defensive line that had, Quentin Williams on the interior, a plethora of pass rushers, amazing linebackers. That was probably the best defense you've seen up until today. And honestly, I think that defense is better. But this front does match that from a talent standpoint. And I went back and I said, well, how do we attack that? Like, how did the Cowboys deal with having a front like the Jets and obviously being compromised on the offensive line? I'd say, and I think a lot of people will say, the Cowboys have been compromised on the offensive line of late, and not just because of injuries, but because of play. So the way they did it was a lot of quick game early on in that, if you remember, right? Getting CD Lamb the ball right now, getting him, whether it be a screen, whether it be an end around, and even Dak, right? It wasn't 1, 2, 3, hold the ball. It wasn't necessarily 1, 2, 3, get it out on a slant. It was survey, and if it's not there, dump it off the TP and let him get some yards after the catch. You saw screens to Deuce Vaughn. I do think there is something to maybe starting this game out. Because, look, Jesse, I mean, I ain't got to tell you. You've played up there. I think even though this pass rush wasn't on last week, they're going to get extra juice from being at home early on, right? They're going to be ready to go, flying upfield. And I just think we have to be able to deal with that energy. We talk about that a lot, right? Deal with that first punch. And I think one of the best ways to do it is to use that aggressiveness against them, pop them with a couple screens real quick and make them back the hell off so that you can be able to attack that secondary, which we'll get to in a second. But what do you think about that? Kind of a quick game approach early on.
Yeah, I honestly, I think this game, just from a passing perspective, this is going to be a passing game. You just aren't going to be able to develop a running game against this level of defense. They're first in the league right now, only giving up 65 yards a game, and at home they only give up 60. So I think a lot of times running into this defense is kind of banging your head into the wall. So you kind of have to do what they do. Use the quick game, like we used to call it when I played, it's long handoffs. Right? It's an extension of the run game. So the bubble screens, the tight end screens, the quick game. If I'm getting 4 or 5 yards a clip on that, and we look at that as far as, in the sense of our running game, then I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because that allows then to those guys to now have to play sideline to sideline. If you're going to keep those defensive players in a box and allow them to dominate in the box, then you're in for a long day. But when you have to spread them out, and now Hassan Reddick has to now chase out to that bubble screen or to that tight end screen or whatever, or these guys have to be more locked in on, here comes the screen, which way is it coming from? That makes them a little bit more hesitant before they can just come downhill after your quarterback. So I like the idea of getting the screen game in, we've always been on board about, hey, screen more. Use teams' aggressiveness against them like they do against us. So use the screen game, use the bubble screen game, tight end screen game. I mean, all those variations to keep that defense on their heels and allow them to pin their ears back and come after you.
Yeah, another thing I was thinking about too there was use some of that motion, right? Pre-snap motion that we saw the Washington football people use last week and that you used. You got back into it. Some of that bunch. Get these guys having to think instead of just running straight up field, getting after you. And the other good thing about the screen game, or not just necessarily the screen, but the quick game, right? It gets Dak in rhythm. Yes. And lately, he's been in rhythm. Over the last 2 games, he's completing 75% of his passes, almost 600 yards, 6 total touchdowns, and we're seeing him use his legs more, right? And not just rushing, although 60 rushing yards in the last 2 games is pretty damn good for Dak. But it's more about, is he converting a first down with those? Is he, creating big plays on the move through the air with his legs? And that's exactly what he's doing. So, again, I keep harping back to week 2, and I get it was at home, but getting him in that rhythm allowed him to complete 80% of his passes on that day. I'm not expecting Dak to have that type of game in regards to 80%, but if he can get in that rhythm, I do think there are going to be a lot of opportunities in that secondary to get busy.
Yeah, and rhythm is such a great word, you know what I'm saying, Scott, because it's like a shooter, man. Like when a shooter gets into his rhythm, now I just feel more confident in everything that I do. It's like when I go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, I never really can get my juices flowing. And so for Dak, those easy throws, and we've seen Dak deal. We've seen when he's been in that rhythm. We've seen the juices is flowing. Everything is going well. My vision is better. My anticipation is better. I'm more comfortable and confident where I'm going with the football or who I'm going to the football with. So that's key. That's key for a quarterback to get that rhythm again on the road. Because if you have long, sustainable drives, that crowd will begin to sour on its own team. Like, don't make no mistakes about that. You give Philly crowd a reason to kind of turn on their team, and they will turn on their team. They will boo their own team out the stadium. But you also want to keep them. You want to keep that decibel level down in the stadium, and you do that by finding that rhythm, right, and getting those passes and those throws. And when Dak is in that type of rhythm, he's a dangerous football player. And I think the legs, using his legs have been, he's been more and more doing that, and that's great because, like Jalen Hurts, they make you play 11 on 11 football. I like when Dak is in the mode where he's saying, you know what, don't forget about me, guys. And what we fail to realize is that when he's running and making himself a valuable option in the offense, what happens to those linebackers and others? they're dropping back as deep anymore because they're like, wait a second, it's 3rd and 8. I'm gonna drop back, but I'm not gonna drop that far back because I got to make sure I come back up if the quarterback breaks containment and starts to run. So what does that happen now? I have the opportunity to throw those passes behind the linebackers to my tight ends, to my slot receivers. So being a real running option for your team gives you a better opportunity to get in that rhythm, and the holes open up for you on the back end a little bit more for you to get those completions, and especially on those 3rd down plays.
Perfectly said. I believe it was their coach. Is it Sean Desai? I'm sorry if I'm saying his name wrong, but Desai. And let me make sure I get this right. Don't want to do that. Where you at here?
Desai.
It is Sean. It is Sean Desai.
It's Sean. Yeah, it's Sean.
Okay, Sean Desai. I believe yes, it is Sean. Sean Desai came out and said something along the lines of, "Yeah, and I'm paraphrasing here. Yeah, that's something we're going to have to plan for." And to me, I kind of chuckled because I'm like, man, when's the last time? Maybe 2018 or something. The last time a team was like, yeah, we have to plan for Dak's legs, and that's what happens when you're able to put that on film. Now they're going to take time out of their week, or possibly take a player out of coverage to spy you because they know you can step up, and now you're going to have that linebacker close down, and boom, somebody is open behind that window. So yeah, man, putting that on film and not okay. They might be planning for it, but you should also be planning for it, and that's what Dak and McCarthy has said they've done recently since that debacle in San Francisco is, hey man, I need to use my legs more. And another thing that coach said was, hey man, I got to cut Dak loose, right? Yeah. And we knew, like, we were watching, definitely coming out of that Week 5 game, we was like, there's just no way. Like you thought that was one of the best plans you can go in against this team, right? Like there has to be more to this offense, and I think you started to see it gradually. You saw it in LA with the Chargers, a little bit more intermediate things, and we're starting to take shots deeper. And then you really saw it against the Rams. And he talked about how, yeah, we haven't even gotten to certain things. This is the game, Jesse. I don't want to hear nothing after this game or throughout the week. Well, yeah, well, we're going to open up some different things later. Go and open up the damn can of whoop ass. Whatever you want to do. Open it up this week. I don't want you coming out here holding all your cards close to the vest. Put these things on film so that if teams do prepare for it, now you can have a counter to it. So I'd be very frustrated if they come out of here talking about, yeah, we didn't let Dak cut it loose, or we ain't run the good plays. So that's something I noticed in that presser. I don't know if you caught that there, Jesse.
Yeah, but also on the film, when you go back and you watch Dak at the beginning of the year, and there were some good games in there, but there was also a level of he just looked hesitant, right? He looked a little bit uncomfortable. Didn't look like he was fully himself and what he wanted to do, game in and game out. And though there were some victories in there, you didn't see a confident looking quarterback. And being that we've been around Dak for the last 8 years, we know what a confident quarterback looks like on the football field, and he wasn't that. And we talked about it 2 weeks ago or so, or after the bye, and I said, this is when the coach says you got to go. Like we got to go now. Like the coaching staff got to go, players got to go. This is the part in time right now when you come after your bye, you got to get going, man. And I think that McCarthy has sensed that, and you've seen them play a style of football that's been like, all right, we're getting going. Talk about adding some of those motions in there. The Cowboys use motion on plays 18 times last week. Prior to that, they only used it 33 times in the prior 6 games.
That's crazy.
So you're seeing some of that stuff now begin to operate in the game plan. And now, like you said, I agree with you 1,000%. Let's go. Let's get more of that going. Open up. We talked about it a lot last year. Bring the duffel, right? Like bring be in your Louis, be in your Louis, your Goddard, whatever the bag is. It's time to really get into that. And against this team, you're going to need some of it. You're going to need some of it, and we'll get more into what we think of how this game should play out. But Mike McCarthy, this offense, Dan Quinn, that defense, you're going to have to get in your bag today to win this football game.
You said it earlier. Like you don't think this is going to be a game for the run, and I agree. I don't think this is going to be the week to try to find the run game, because that's one of the biggest things coming out of Cowboys Nation over the last few weeks, probably the last 3 or 4 weeks, is that we haven't been able to run the ball effectively or efficiently. But this is a tough defense to run the ball against. It's not a tough defense to throw the ball against. I'm not advocating for a 40 to 45 attempt night. That's not what
I am.
If it gets there, right? Like if it gets there. What you don't want, though, right, is, and this depends on your other side. It depends on the defense. But you don't want to get into a situation where, okay, we got to score 40 and it's 38-40 type of game because they have a pass rush. They're at home. You want this thing to stay in that 33-36 range, right? Because that's more efficient. That means you're probably up, and now we can kind of just run the ball to run the clock out. If we're getting 40-plus attempts, no team really wants to play for 40-plus attempts, especially at the end of the day, Jesse. I know this secondary is ripe for the pickings, but you've got a questionable offensive line right now, and they've got guys that are hungry to get to the quarterback. Does that make sense, though, before I keep going?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love if we finish. Right? He's 35 for 48, right? And you get the dub, but I don't want to necessarily get to that point. But what I'm getting at is this secondary food. You saw the film, right? This secondary is food. This might be one of those games where you come out like, man, I wanted to throw the ball all night. And I would get it as long as you can block it up. Let me just say that. As long as you can block it up, you're going to have opportunities. They're 20th in the NFL in passer rating against wide receivers, second worst in touchdowns per game against wide receivers. You saw with Sam Howell, shouts out to your boy UNC in the building, Tar Heels. You saw what he did to him last week. Bradbury is absolute. He's dessert at this point. I mean, he ain't even the entree. He's a sweetener on top. You know what I'm saying? We starting with the dessert, and he's just getting whooped out there. Over 120 quarterback rating when targeted in man coverage and 109 in zone. Darius Slay ain't the same. He want people to call him Slay. He ain't big play Slay right now. So, don't let these guys get in the rhythm by giving them a cheap one. Get in your duffel. Make those guys think back there because when your boy, not Sam Howell, Bieniemy had those dudes in a blender, Jesse.
Yeah.
In a blender. I need Mike to take a little bit from that.
No, I'm with you 100%. And for everything you said is why I am standing on the table to go back to the last segment we were talking about. I want Dak to get in a rhythm, and I want that. I want him to let him go. Let him go. And feast on guys like Bradbury. I mean, he is ripe for the picking. And this is the part of coaching that gets very, very strategic. Is there are ways that you can set up plays that you can get the guy that you want versus the guy that they have, and you can eat. And that's the thing that I want to see throughout this game. I want to see guys. Yeah, let's harken back. There was a time, long time ago. My Bernie Mac voice, long time ago, when I played for the Cowboys, long time ago. And there was a said player on this team that most people may call Oscar the Grouch. And he was the starting nickelback on that said football team that I played on a long time ago. Long time ago. And I had some friends that played the receiver position on other teams. And when I talked to them, they consistently said, we were fighting amongst each other to get into the slot to have a chance to eat. This is what they were saying. Like, man, we would be in practice. The coach would call a play, and we knew that we would be lined up in the slot and who would be guarding us. And so we were all trying to run to the slot. Like, bro, you ain't the slot. You the X. You the Z. What are you doing inside? No, move. I'm the slot guy now. Because that's how much of an appetizer dessert he was at that time. It should be the same way against a guy like Bradbury. Is that guys should be fighting to get into the slot. Coaches should be calling plays that have 3 wide receiver sets where you can have guys in the slot saying, you fool, bro, and we are about to munch on you all day long. Paul, we going at you. We are going at you all game long. So I love that, man. I love it. And when you have opportunities like this against a team that you know very well, you know these players, you know this system, you know this team, put together something that you can attack their weaknesses. People do it to us all the time. Let's do it back to some other folks.
If I could take a guess here, Hakeem Hicks.
Hakeem Nicks, yes.
Nicks. I'm sorry, Hakeem Nicks. Yeah.
Yes.
I just had a feeling because
Steve Smith. There's a bunch of those guys.
Victor Cruz.
Bunch of those guys up there. Steve Slayton.
Yeah, they definitely had their day with over there.
Every time. Yeah. It wasn't like just a one-off thing. Every time.
They took turns. Yeah. Victor one day, Nicks another day.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm with you though in regards to playing mouse in the house, playing find the scrub, whatever you want to call it, and early too. And this is one thing that's encouraging about what this offense has been able to do lately is they've been involving CD Lamb right now, and I'd come out and get him involved early. Like you said, let's isolate CD Lamb out there on Bradbury, and I know he's ISO, ISO, and honestly. I mean, look, Bradbury's the guy, but they got a slot problem too. You know, Roby's out. They're trying to use a safety sometimes. They're doing different things. But what I've loved lately, and you can speak on this in a nuanced standpoint from a receiver, I've been advocating, and I think we've had this discussion. I've been advocating for CD Lamb to play some X wide receiver for the last better part of 2 years. And I'm not saying he has to do it all the time, but I just remember, you know, what it did for the team when Amari Cooper was here and the attention that you had to pay to him on the outside. And now when you got a guy like Cooks now, instead of maybe a Michael Gallup on that other side, or you bring in a Kevontae Turpin, you now have to decide what to do with your safeties, what to do with your coverage, how to roll it. And now you're starting to see Ferguson, you know, tear up the middle of the field too. If you put CD in the slot, I feel like it's a little bit easier to deal with when it comes to some of those deeper routes, as opposed when you put him out there out wide from time to time. That safety that's a cheat way over and double, or maybe that linebacker has to buzz a little bit deeper, and you open up things for everyone else. So you want to get that mouse in the house, I'd line him up on that side, right?
Yeah, no. And one thing that people may not understand on how formations work, right? The X receiver is always on the ball. So your tight end is going to be opposite of the X receiver so that he's going to be opposite the X receiver on the ball so that the Z can be off. Well, what does that mean defensively? Defensively, they look at that as the strength of the offense is where the tight end is set. So the strength is going to be set opposite of the X wide receiver. And so what you now get is you now get more isolation type routes and type situations when CeeDee Lamb is playing the X receiver. When football began the passing, whenever they begin the passing, the X receiver, you go back and you look in the 90s and early 2000s, all the big time guys played X. We've evolved now where everybody's playing all over the place because you can't. So you just can't match a guy up and lock him. But the X receiver was always the best receiver on the football team, because what happens is when you line him up, the coverage dictates where the strength is. Linebackers are going to call their defense, or safety going to call their defense where the strength is, and that's always where the tight end is set. So the strength is going to be over there. And so now what you have is I have a bona fide dude that has to get off press and has to win these isolated routes. And you've seen CeeDee Lamb become more of the X receiver the last couple of weeks. Yeah. And he's been able to eat in that scenario, because even when you double, there's still ways to beat it underneath before the double gets there. But again, it's the isolation that you put that X in, and everybody else is on the other side where the strength is at.
Perfectly said. And I'm interested to see if they use more. His snaps have been increasing on the outside the last 2 weeks, and that's something maybe coming out the bye that they've noticed they need to incorporate more. It was that. It's getting him involved. You're starting to see Brandon now get involved, Brandon Cooks. And at least last week, you saw Tolbert get in there and do some more moving around things. I think this would be a perfect game to whatever package you got to get Turpin downfield one-on-one. Find it. Because, man, these safeties, this secondary is just right now not playing good ball. That's all I can say. They're not playing good ball. But in order to get to that point, you have to block it up. That's pretty much it. If the Cowboys can block it up, I think we all can agree they can get some things downfield against the secondary.
Yeah, they can, but I think Dak has to have the mindset of we're going to be aggressive downfield today, because we've seen downfield be open a lot of times. And if your mind is I'm taking underneath profit first, you neglect sometimes letting a play develop down the football field. So Dak in his mind has to say, I know my check down is going to be there. I know an underneath route is going to be here, but I'm going to do my best to try to hold on to the ball a tick longer to make sure that I really give the vertical route an opportunity to develop, because we have an advantage there. So from a quarterback's perspective, his mind has to be set on we're attacking deep and then profiting short, not profiting short and then attacking deep, if that makes any sense, right? No. Like he has to be in a mindset of this is where I'm going. So, and not to be negligent with the football and holding it in the pocket when things are breaking down around him, but being conscious of the fact that if we're going to attack this thing down the football field, I, as the quarterback, have to give the routes down the field an opportunity to develop, and I got to stay with them just a tick longer and not come off of them and throw the ball down or eat immediate when I know that there's a profitable situation right there. Again, I'm not saying every time, but I'm saying when you dial them up, stick with that just a hair longer and let it fully develop before you come off of it.
As long as he trusts his guys up front, I think that mentality would be there. That never was his problem. It's just the guys have to block it up, man. I don't want to get to a point where, you know, what happened the first, three dropbacks last week?
Oof.
Sack. I mean, it was just sack party. Unfortunately, you got the penalty and you were able to go down. And good for him for not letting it phase you. But this is on the road now, right? This crowd is going to be involved. And we've seen things like this happen where it snowballs. And so you're going to have to be able to come out here and get off to a fast start. And a fast start, Jesse, might not be a touchdown. It might be a field goal. It might be, you know, at least getting the ball across field and flipping field position. I think the last thing you want, though, is for the Cowboys to go out here and go 3 and out, 4 and out, 5 and out, whatever it is. And now they got this energy and this vibe in that crowd. Lincoln Financial Field is going crazy, and things start to snowball. So, I need them to stay focused.
You're absolutely right. Blocking it up is going to be key. And Philly has made that difficult over the last 3 weeks. They led the league in pressures with 49. So blocking it up is key. And I think and that's the part where you just got to be able to scheme it up correctly. Like, all right, guys, here's what it is. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes, it's not going to be easy, but it's the opportunities are there. We saw a team that's lesser than us in the Washington Commanders do it a week ago.
Yeah, they blocked it up too. I was impressed. I was surprised. You know, Washington's offensive line is one of the worst in the leagues, and they didn't sack him until the second to last possession, and that's why he had about 400 yards and 4 tutties. So if we can get that, 400 yards and 4 touchdowns is what I'm expecting if we can get that.
Yeah.
Now on the other side, that'll be interesting. We'll get to that in a second, but I want to remind you guys to stick around because at the end of the show here, we're going to be doing the drawing for the recliner giveaway. Powered by BT Furnishing. So for those 8 people who came through on Friday down at BT Furnishings in Garland, I will be spinning the wheel, and you will see the wheel. In fact, I'll show you the wheel. 1 second. Give me a second. There we go. I'll show you the wheel. This is the wheel right here. We'll be spinning this, and of the 8 participants, one of you guys will be walking away with a free recliner, y'all. So make sure y'all stick around for that. On the flip side, we talk about the Eagles' defensive line. On the flip side, their offensive line is what really powers that team. But it hasn't quite been that vaunted offensive line of late, whether it be due to an injury to Cam Jurgens, who, since he's been out, they've been averaging a little bit less than 100 yards a game. Before he went out, it was like almost $160, might even been over $160. They've also been giving up a ton of pressures. They have given up the most pressures in the last 3 weeks on the offensive line, which is something I wouldn't have expected to hear from that offensive line. And the Cowboys, we know they get pressure at the highest rate. So on that side of the ball, Jesse, I think that is, I get it. They're going to try to run the ball. Let me say that. Every team is going to try to run the ball in the Cowboys, right? That's the game plan. And let's talk about that briefly before I get to the passing game. DeAndre Swift started off hot. He runs with some emotion. He runs with some anger, some power, some spark. He's a guy you're going to have to contend with on the ground, correct?
Yes, sir. I mean, he has found a home in Philadelphia, and he was off to a hot start. But again, I think this is going to be the game where the Cowboys. Dan Quinn used to always say, you have to earn the right to pass rush.
There you go.
You have to earn the right to pass rush. You have to be able to go out there, be sounding your gaps, be willing to give up your potential success for the success of someone else. You got to keep guys, those offensive linemen off your linebackers, right? You know, because I'm looking at it's probably going to be more of Marquise Bell playing linebacker. And again, these guys are really good at getting to that second level. So you got to make sure that you're clean up front to keep guys off of guys like Marquise Bell and company and Damone Clark, and allow them to be free flowing and run to the football and make the tackle. So the Cowboys have to truly understand that today is going to be one of those days where you have to earn the right. And earning the right to pass rush means we got to really sell out on first and second down to put them in long distance situations on third down. Because honestly, if they get to third and short and to fourth and short or fourth and 1 inches, let's be honest with you, we ain't stopping that. No one in the league is stopping the tush push. It's an unstoppable play. So we have to always be mindful of that at the back of our heads that, we think, third down, we get them off the field when it's 4th and 1.
They understand that, right? I hope
they understand that. And so now we have to make sure that when they get to 4th down or when they get to 3rd down, it's 3rd and long. It's 3rd and 6 or 7 or 8. Now you've earned the right to pin your ears back and go after the quarterback. But also remember that is Jalen Hurts, right? After he makes his first read, he will tuck the football and run. So go there. Even when you're rushing and you're going to get the quarterback, make sure that you're coming under control and under with the level of detail that, hey, I got to get here and I got to tackle this dude who is really strong in the lower half of his body and wants to run the football when the pocket breaks down.
That's something I don't want to get to here in a second. Interesting statistic. The Eagles are currently 28th in the NFL in run rate of 10 yards or more. So gains of 10 yards or more. Last year, they were 3rd in the National Football League. So their run rate of runs of 10 yards or more has actually been cut in half from about 8% this year. Last year was roughly 15%. So they've basically been cut in half. So they aren't.
Would you say that's because Jalen Hurts hasn't been as much as a runner than he was before?
That 100%. 100%. Last year he had, I want to say, 5 or so runs of 15 yards or more. He had 0 so far. Last year he had multiple games of 10-yard runs or more. He has 1 this year. And he's been banged up. So when you talk about him using his legs, he just hasn't been running effectively as much. But that doesn't mean that when he needs it or he feels like he has to go get it, he won't escape the pocket. He won't use his strength because he is a strong quarterback to maybe sideswipe a blitz from a corner or something like that or what have you and move around and find A.J. Brown on a cross or getting open on a scramble drill. You do have to be mindful how you rush this guy. And I'm hoping that the trend for the Eagles continues where they're giving up a lot of pressure in the middle, right? A guy like Osa Digizua, Micah rushing up the middle. If they bring Golston in there, Hankins pushing guys back. The middle has been a little soft recently. And if the Cowboys can push that pocket back and make Jalen Hurts retreat as opposed to going to the side, I think they've got a shot to really make things difficult for him when it wasn't the greatest game for him last year at home on primetime. He had like 125 receiving or throwing yards. So, it wasn't easy for Jalen last year, but I do think pushing the pocket as opposed to flying upfield and giving him that lane to step up, step to the side, and find somebody is the key.
Well, I think the one thing that Dan Quinn has done really well, and the numbers have shown it, is that the Cowboys have been stunning more than anyone else in the National Football League.
Yeah.
They stunt, 37% of the time. They're top 10 in blitzes. And I love the fact that they stunt is because I want you to break this down in your show this week because you're gonna be able to see it and realize what's for rushers. When you see a lot of these TE stunts, right? When you see the tackle in stunts, which means is you may have an end go first, and once he engages and then gets up the football field, now running into the inside shoulder of the tackle, the end now comes around, and now he's running into the outside shoulder of the guard. Well, what does that create? Now I've created a gap where both of my guys are on the inside edge of the players, right? And we've now created that. Don't run down the middle of them. And what Dan Quinn has been doing a lot is he's been using Micah Parsons as that ability to stand up in the middle. He's used Tank at that. He used Sam Williams at that. He's a multitude of guys to do that. Well, when these two guys are now stunning, well, the guard realizes I now have to get out a little bit to meet that twisting in. The tackle realizes that guard is stuck up to me, pushes me out a little bit. So it creates these gaps. Now the center doesn't have that body or that hand on either side of him, which creates a two-way goal for that guy rushing over a guy like Jason Kelce. So Dan Quinn has been able to utilize that stunting because he has the athletes up front and is creating edges for them to get into the passing lane or the running lane or whatever may have you. And so he's been the best at doing it in the league. He's been doing it the most in the league. And when you have guys like Osa, who's having a really good year, and you have Fowler, and you have Sam, and you have Micah, and you have Tank, you have a bunch of athletes that are interchangeable, that all these guys are now creating the edges and continuing upfield with the stunts. So the Cowboys have to continue to do that this week, so that whatever the Eagles can do with their athletic tackles, it kind of gets negated because we're attacking you at a different place in a different space.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that they'll be prepared for it. But, as Mike Tyson said, you can prepare all you want, but once you get punched in the mouth, things will change. And
they're going to win every battle.
Exactly.
Cool, we know that. Like, you're going to win some, we're going to win some. We hope when we win that ours result into sacks, sack fumbles, tip passes, incompletions, get off the field, tackles for loss. So that's the place where you want to be. Is that we're going to lose some of these stunt battles. We're also going to win some of these stunt battles, and when we do, I pray that it's Micah getting there. It's guys who are getting there with the bad intentions and understanding. Wrap with one arm, strip with the other arm, because Jalen will give the football up. We've seen it all year long.
Yep, he's second in the league coming into the week in turnovers, and when he's pressured, he is not the same quarterback than when he's not. I didn't know quarterback is, but he's really fallen off. His quarterback rating drops down to 80. His completion percentage drops to the 50s, and he's thrown 5 of his 8 interceptions facing pressure. And the Cowboys get pressure more than anybody in the league, and they get pressure the second fastest. That's interesting. The second fastest than anyone in the league, and the reason why it's interesting is because Jalen Hurts has been afforded to hold the rock long. He's held the ball a lot longer actually this year than he did in last year in their Super Bowl run. So if he wants to elect to hold the ball longer, that'll give our athletic front time to get home. And if we can just push him off his spot, then it'll be up to those guys in the back end, because we know they've got talent out there, right? Dallas Goedert, one of the better tight ends in the league. Devontae Smith, one of the better twos in the league. And A.J. Brown is playing out of his god-dang-on mind lately. And a lot of it is just bully ball. I mean, this dude is just – he's kind of a bunch of physical wide receivers all in one right now. Kind of reminds me a bit of a T.O., has some Dez to him with the catches. It's some Megatron to him with just the physicalness. I mean, he is playing so complete right now, Jesse, that I do think it is going to be key for the Cowboys to pressure Jalen so they don't get that connection going, because when they get going, as we know, 6 straight games, 125 yards or more. And as a receiver, I know when you take off the rivalry hat, it's just awesome to watch.
It's sexy to watch, man. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you, brother. It's so sexy to watch. And not only is he doing it, to your point, with the mixture of all, I mean, it's intermediate, it's short, it's the long ball, it's the strength at the catch. Like, my boy Nate, he got on me this week. He's like, "Oh man, you talk about A.J. Brown and you just be smiling." And I said, I'm sorry. I appreciate the good wide receiver play, man. And when you turn on the film and you watch A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts work, man, he is just, he's in such a zone right now. And, to CeeDee Lamb's credit, he's getting in that. CeeDee, I believe, is entering that zone that A.J. Brown was a couple weeks ago when he complained to the quarterback and all of a sudden things changed for him. But boy, man, I said this on every show that I've been on this week, all my shows. So I'm going to say it here. And people are going to take it the wrong way. Even when I say don't take it the wrong way, let me finish what I'm saying. With the way that A.J. Brown is playing right now, we don't have a DB on this roster that can stop him. Now, wait, before you respond, I am not saying that Deron Bland won't win matchups. I'm not saying that Deron Bland won't win some share of the whatchamacallit. But if you line up Bland, if you line up Gilly, you line up anybody you want, and you're saying, "Oh, well, we're gonna have you stop A.J. Brown all day," you're setting yourself up for failure. You just are. Like, he's in that type of a zone right now. Like, he is just playing some lights out football. It's from a receiver, it's special to watch. But I hope that, and I know, I'm sure that Dan Quinn has a plan to at least try to mitigate and to slow down what A.J. Brown is doing right now.
If I had to speak for Deron,
I ain't scared of you, mother.
Listen, you're right. Look, no one corner has been able to stop him right now. And as much as AJ is in the zone, Deron's in the zone right now, man. He's in the zone. 89 coverage grade right now. If you're in the PFF, is number 1. 6 catches allowed in single coverage, 3 picks, 6 forced incompletions, a 7.5 passer rating when he's lined up 1v1. Now,
And he has not seen a receiver in the league this year like AJ Brown.
that's fair.
Right?
But
I'm trust me, there's no bigger person who is a fan of DaRon Bland than me. I'm a huge fan of DaRon Bland. Stood on the table for DaRon Bland when he got his chance when Trayvon Diggs went down. You just can't line up all day long and say, DaRon Bland, you got AJ, and we're gonna leave it at that. I think
that's not what I'm getting at.
Okay.
That's not what I'm getting. What I was trying to get at with DB is that, and I've been saying this all week, I have so much confidence things that are 15 yards and in, because that's where DB, when I always say, why are you throwing his way? I mean, he has a ridiculous IQ. He's quick twitched. He's aggressive downhill. He can make plays on the ball right now if you're going to try to throw the ball on outs and comebacks and quick slants and he's in your grill. The one place we have not seen him make plays on the ball, not because he can't, just because I ain't seen it, is deep. So that's where, to me, as much as I love DB, it's a big TBD, right? To be decided. I don't know what that is going to look like, but I do know we will see it because Jalen Hurts is another pusher man. This is 3 weeks in a row. The Cowboys are going to get a quarterback that likes to push that ball downfield. He's second in the league coming into the week in 20-plus yard throws. And guess where most of them is going?
To the left, to A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown. And that's where DaRon Bland lines up. So I have a lot of confidence in A.J. Brown versus DaRon Bland 15 and in, right? Where it may get a little funky is the RPO game. They've brought that back in this offense. I don't know if it's because of Hurts can't move around. I don't know if it's they're not running the ball as well. They're trying to that's their short game, right? And if you play off, they're just going to literally pick you with the RPO. He'll get his 11 yards on the catch, and they'll live to fight another day until you bite. So here's my worry. We saw what happened against the Chargers, where DB was extremely aggressive on the double move. And we saw last year Brian Johnson, but their former coordinator, hit Trayvon Diggs early in that game with a double move for a big play. If DB cannot bite, then he'll have a shot to show us he can contend downfield with A.J. Brown. That's the only part of the field where, honestly, I got to see because A.J. been making dudes look silly down there.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been strong. I mean, guys grabbing his arm, grabbing his face mask on his back, and he's still making the catch. So I agree with you 100%, and I look forward to seeing that matchup between A.J. Brown and DaRon Bland today.
It's a big one. Gilly faced him last year, had some success, but it's weird because when I went back and rewatched, there were the quick game stuff that Gilly did struggle with on A.J., right? We always know that Gilly right now is having trouble with the carrying guys across the field. That's just not really up his wheelhouse right now. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do because Devontae Smith is the fast guy. He's a speed guy. And he's not getting targeted as much as AJ, but you can't sleep on him either, right? Because they're not doing anything complex from a schematic standpoint. But the minute you may show some attention to AJ or the minute you may buy on the play action, Devontae Smith is now deep down the field. And it's for whatever reason, teams continue to lose him. And he's getting these wide open walking touchdowns. Dallas can't afford that, which is why you need to pressure Jalen Hurts so he does miss that opportunity if it does happen.
And that's where it starts at for this defense. If you want to win all these other areas, it starts up front with you getting the pressure on Jalen Hurts. If you're able to do that, then absolutely you're going to see him because he's a one-read quarterback. And that's the way the offense is set up. It's one read, and then when that's not there, and the offense is not really built to go one read, two read, three read. It's one read. Hey, Jalen, be really athletic. Guys, keep moving in the background, and then I find somebody down the football field. But that's when he gets in trouble. When he gets off that first read early in the progression, and he starts trying to kind of YOLO his thing and kind of do his thing like that in the pocket, he gets himself in trouble, and it can lead to interception. So I want to be able to take away that first option, have the pressure come, and then have Jalen Hurts back there trying to do, some Houdini stuff and throw the ball. And that's what our DBs, whether it's Gilly, whether it's DaRon Bland, they have been really good on that part, is that when guys get to scrambling and you start throwing the ball in areas where it shouldn't go, interceptions happen.
That's a very good point. There'll be some cat and mouse schematic games, 100%. Yeah. Like, Dan is going to have to figure out how to schematically take away some of the things they like to do. But then there's going to be plays where, one-on-one, man-on-man. You just got to win this rep. So
Gotta win.
it's going to be a battle with that. Last thing on their offense, I brought it up briefly, but Dallas Goedert, he's starting to get it going a little bit here over the last 4 weeks. He's averaging 68 yards per game, and he has 2 touchdowns. The first 4 weeks, he had 22 yards per game, 0 touchdowns. This is a game where we're going to need to see vintage Jaron Kearse, I think, man, and whoever else they decide to throw at him, and I would prefer that they switch it up with guys like Bell and Wanye Thomas. Those guys are going to have to collectively slow down what Dallas Goedert can do, because when you forget about him, he can tend to hit you with a play action or a screen, and now he's getting a 15-yarder. Next thing you know, he's finishing with 75 yards and a touchdown, and it was big yards. So Dallas Goedert got to make sure that we're not getting bit up or hit up with a bunch of his screens and whatnot.
Yeah, they kind of disguise him at times where they'll leave he and the other tight end, and they'll block, tight end screen, tight end, sail route. They'll do something, but they'll sometimes not go to him, a lot, and he'll just be inside. He's not a really good blocker, but then you fall asleep. You forget about him.
Yeah.
And he makes these little pop plays throughout the course of the game because he's not really in the flow of the action happening early on, in the game. So you're absolutely right. Being able to keep an eye on Dallas Goedert, because they're gonna try to find the gap. So Jaron Kearse, this is the guy who we call him straight jacket on our show, Hanging with the Boys, because he doesn't do too much talking, but he steps on the field and he's kind of just he's a dog.
Yeah.
But he has to kind of get back to that level of where he was erasing tight ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
vintage Jaron.
It wasn't even a question. I know he popped up on the injury list this week with a toe injury, but finished out the week pretty good. So I'm hoping that he's able to go out there and run around free and lock guys down.
Okay, quickly before I get to the recliner giveaway, guys, let's do what we do we've been doing it for a while now. This season is basically the Cowboys win if. And for me, I'm gonna keep it short, sweet, and simple, because I every time I keep diving into this game and I'm trying to figure out, well, maybe if we scheme this or maybe we scheme that, it comes down to one simple thing here, bro. And I hate to be cliche, win the trenches. This is a team that has a really good offensive line, a really good defensive line, and you have a team that has a really good defensive line and an offensive line that's still trying to figure its way out. If you win the trenches in this game, all the statistics actually revolve back to that. Pressure Jalen, he'll turn the ball over. Block it up, Dak will shoot his secondary. Win the trenches for me, Jesse. Cowboys win the game.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go a little bit, and that's a great point. And there's 10 points, right? We can find 20. We got to find 20 points. Cowboys win this game if they finally get a special teams touchdown. If Kevontae Turpin finally gets a punt or a kickoff return back for a touchdown,
those are huge.
That's going to be, I think this game is going to be close. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think there's going to be, every yard is going to be fought for. Every point's going to be fought for. It's those hidden yardage and those hidden moments where you're not counting for it. It doesn't normally happen. But if you can go get a punt or a kickoff back for a touchdown, I think that may be the deciding factor for the Cowboys to win this football game.
Nashawn Wright owes Kevontae Turpin a big block to spring him for a touchdown.
Yes.
Okay? He owes him one. If that was you back in time when you was on special teams, would a punter come to you and be like, hey, or a punt returner come, hey, man, you owe me something. You owe me something out there.
Oh, yeah, but see, the thing was, like, I had really good punt returns. I had Des Bryant. I had Patrick Creighton. I had guys who actually can get to the house.
Yeah.
So it was always imperative to me, like, yo, let's get our blocks, because this dude can actually get one back to the crib. All the guys that I blocked for, I think we may have had like 6 or 7 punt returns back for a touchdown. We got to the house. We got to the house. It was definitely an energy there when we got a chance to return kicks.
We need Turp to get one. All right, let's do this drawing. In about 7 minutes, Cowboys, Eagles will be kicking off out there at Lincoln Financial Field. We got 8 names on the board. Devontae Lewis, James Reynolds. Shouts out to James. We'll talk more about him throughout the week. Kendrick Chancellor, Frederick Benjamin, Crystal, Jonathan Goodjoint, and Kenya Lewis. Thank you guys for coming out on, sorry, I scrolled that down. Coming out on Friday to BT Furniture. I'm going to click this button, okay? And whoever lands on gets a free recliner, no purchase necessary. Here we go.
I can do some things in that recliner, whoever win it now.
Stop. And the winner is Kendrick Chancellor. Congratulations to Kendrick Chancellor for winning the BT Furnishings free recliner. We will be reaching out to you this week to schedule that pickup. You have to be able to go to BT Furnishings and pick that up. They will get with you for doing it. So appreciate you again for coming through, and congratulations to Kendrick and congratulations to D, who won the Micah Parsons jersey, who, by the way, returning back to PA. We ain't at our hometown, but right outside of our hometown, Harrisburg, PA. Ton of friend and family there. Also, big, huge shouts out to Mama Parsons. Happy birthday, Mama Parsons. I know Micah's going to want to give you a gift today, so there'll be no better gift than a dub.
Crazy. I know it is. Yeah. That ticket list is going to be crazy.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I haven't asked her personally because I know with the traveling and everything and with the family, she's probably busy, but I'd imagine that's 100% over at least 30 people or so trying to get in there, you know?
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy. He might have been better off kind of just maybe buying a suite or two over there and just,
probably, and then just put all 50 people up in there.
Yeah, y'all, here's a suite, man. Here's a suite, for all of 2 suites for the immediate family. Here y'all go, man. Just and be done with it.
All right, man. 5 minutes to kick off. I need to go get into the zone because Jesse,
these are the games where I miss us being together.
I know, man.
These are the games where I truly miss us being together because I can see it now. Towel in the back pocket. You locked in like this. Every play turn around. Jess, did you see that? That's a flag. I'm like, all right, I feel you, brother. No, that's what I'm talking about. You high-fiving people, chest bumping folks. That's what I'm talking about. See, people don't get a chance to see that behind the scenes. You had to come out and really see that. But these are the games where I miss being there with my brother, man, because we be locked in.
Hey, look, I'm already making little plans behind the scenes. I don't even want to say if, but I'm gonna say when. I'm putting it out there. When that tournament comes up, when that postseason comes up, I'm trying to get us back out there.
Okay.
I'm trying to get us back out there because I need that energy, man.
I know, and that energy is something different, bro.
I be in here, and my dogs be looking at me like I'm crazy. My lady she be like, this is just him. I ain't worried about it. I need that energy, man.
Yeah. And for those like when you watch a game and you're around others who are cheering, like that energy, it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's so fire, man. I do miss being out there with the people.
I miss it, man. Because look, y'all know Jesse like 6'12", so anytime there's a good play or something like that, I gotta get chest, but I gotta jump hard. So I'm springing up with it. You know what I'm saying? I miss that. I miss it. Damn. Yeah. But all right, 4 minutes to kick off. We will see y'all halftime. Hopefully, this is it's a halftime show where it's a competitive type of game, and we're not sitting here, me at least, yelling and screaming about what's going on. So we'll see y'all then, Cowboys Nation. Appreciate y'all. Cowboy Game Day Live. Skywalker, Jesse Holley. We'll see y'all kick off in a couple minutes. Peace.